Hi everyone, so this feels really weird. It has been quite some time since I have been on YouTube. By quite some time I mean like 2 months or something, I don't know. It's been a really long time since I've been here, and there's a few reasons for that, and I just wanted to get on here, give you an update of what's going on, and why I haven't been on, and what's going on, what has been going on, and what will continue going on, if that makes any sense. So just quickly before I go into everything, one of the reasons why I haven't posted in a while, like probably 2 weeks I've wanted to really post a video, but I haven't been able to because this battery that I'm using now on my Canon, I'm not even on my usual camera, on my vlogging camera, this camera that I'm using right now, the battery in it, that's it. Once this battery dies, I have no way to film anything except from my phone. My phone's a piece of crap. I mean, I've got an iPhone 7 Plus, but the cameras are crap. It's just crap. Anyway, since being sick, the leads to my battery chargers have gone missing. 2 different leads have gone missing. So I have not been able to charge any batteries. And I happened to find this battery. It was a miracle, so that's why I'm filming this video. I found this battery. It's full. That's all I've got, so I need to cherish that because I went and looked at these, buying some new ones, and they were well over $100 each. I understand where they are. I don't know if people who have come into our house while I've been sick have put them somewhere, but I have checked every cupboard, I have checked every drawer. I cannot find them. So this battery that I'm using right now is very precious, and I don't know what I'm going to do when it runs out. Okay, now let's get to the main story. So let's go back to 2017. Okay, so I had a baby February 2017, Micah, right? All good, I'm breastfeeding, blah 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 blah. October 2017, I had some random spotting. On the 18th of October 2017, I had some random spotting. I remember that date because it was when me and a couple of friends, we went and met Chelsea Winter, which is this amazing cook, and she has cool cookbooks. Anyway, then on November 2017, on the 10th, 11th, 12th and 13th, I had spotting, then it went away. December 2017, on the 29th, I had 1 day of spotting, went away. January 2018, I'm still breastfeeding at this point, and Micah is a month off turning a year old. I had spotting on the 18th, 19th and 20th of January. Then I got my very first proper cycle while still breastfeeding, which for me is crazy. Any cycles for me is crazy. Hence why I had to do IVF. So on the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th and 26th of January, I had my first proper cycle. 27th, 28th, spotted, stopped. So on the 10th of February, which was Micah's birthday, I had spotting. The 11th I had spotting, and the 12th I had spotting. Then that was it. Then we get into March. Okay, so I had spotting on the 3rd of March, the 4th of March, then I got my period again on the 5th of March, which made that first cycle a 43-day long cycle, which for the first one I thought, it's not too bad. So I had a normal cycle in March, then I had spotting, then about a week later, my period finished, and I just had spotting on the 10th, the 11th, the 12th, the 13th, the 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 20th, so on and so on. April, still spotting, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th of April, I'm still spotting. So the whole month I spotted. 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, I had a proper period. I thought, okay, this is going to sort it out. It's going to be fine. Then it finished. The 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, I had spotting. The 20th, I had heavy bleeding. The 21st, I had spotting. 22nd, 3rd, 24th, 25th, I had spotting. 26th, 27th, I had a period. 28th, 29th, 30th, I had spotting. May, I spotted all of the start of May. Then on the 11th, 12th and 13th of May, I had a period. 14th, I had spotting. So that was 3 days, then spotting. 15th, I had a period. 16th, I had spotting. 17th, spotting. 18th, a period. 19th, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, spotting. 28th, a period. Can you see how crazy this is? June, spotting, 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 spotting. I don't think I need to carry on. Do you get the point? Like from March onwards, I didn't stop having my period. It just continued for 4 whole months. On the 3rd month, I went to my doctor. I know I should have gone earlier, but it's hard getting into the doctor and having kids and blah 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 blah. It was just hard. Anyway, so it took me 3 months to get to the doctor. Went to the doctor. They put me on tranexamic acid, or however you pronounce it. It didn't work. So I went back to the doctor and he said, okay, we'll put a referral through for you to get an ultrasound. So, okay. While I waited for the ultrasound, a month went by and I bled and bled and bled and bled and bled and bled and bled, and I was getting so sick of it. It was bringing me down. I was so tearful. I was crying all the time. I just had enough. I called my doctor. And by this point, a month had gone by and I still hadn't heard about my weight to get an ultrasound. I was still waiting. My doctor was like, oh, why don't you just pay for it yourself? It's only $200. And $200? So I told her to cancel it and send me a referral through to another hospital where it would have a shorter wait. In this time, she put me on Provera, which is a drug I've been on many times before. You take the drug, you stop it, you get a bleed, you start IVF or whatever fertility treatment you're doing. Oh wow, I'm very white, sorry. So I went on it for the 21 days, and after the 21 days, this is just very recently, I got the withdrawal bleed, okay? So this was in June. So the 20th of June, I felt slightly crampy in the morning and I thought, okay, yep, period's coming. By 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the pain was so intense that I was like moving my knees and like fidgeting, like, and I went to pick Mila up from kindy and my nana was like, are you sure you're okay? And I was like, no, I think you need to come with me. So she went into the kindy and got Mila Rose, and I was starting to rock back and forwards. I was in so much pain. I dropped my nana off home, brought the kids home. They were being the usual normal children's stuff, being loud and boisterous, and I was just not handling it, and I screamed at them, just shut up! And it was awful. I felt so bad, but I was in such agony that I just couldn't handle the noise that was going on. And my friend walked in the door and I was like, did Martin send you over? And she's like, no, why? And I was like, oh, I'm just in real bad pain, because I told him he needed to get home. But he couldn't, it was hard for him to get home. Anyway, so she just happened to stop by. It was like a godsend kind of thing. And she was like, so she looked after the kids, kept them entertained. And she was like, you don't look well. And because I was rocking and I was like, this pain seriously is like, I feel like I'm in labor. It was almost, I would say it was worse than labor. I felt like I was going to vomit. I felt like I was going to die. It was awful. I was like, I'm going to have a bath. And that's very unlike me. I don't do baths. I overheat in them. I don't enjoy them. I got in the bath and I kind of felt a little bit better in the bath, and I was like, okay, I'm overheating. I got out. As soon as I got out the bath, something felt weird. So I hopped on the toilet and this huge, like placenta-sized clot just went like completely out of me. It was massive, and I was just like, oh my god, okay. And then the pain kind of left a bit. And I just went out to my friend and I was like, this massive blood clot just came out. And she's like, did you keep it? Like, do you need to show the doctor? And I was like, well, it's flushed down the toilet now. So I felt a little bit better. And then the pain came back. And I thought, oh my god, here we go again. I'd taken Panadol. The Panadol wasn't working. So I called my doctor, or the nurse, and said, you might want to put this on record for when I see a gynecologist. Because already they were going to get me to try and see a gynecologist because of my bleeding issues anyway. So had this massive blood clot come out and still had pain. So I called the nurse and I told her, and she said, I think you need to go to the hospital. In that time, another massive blood clot came out while I was on the phone to her, and she's like, go to the hospital. On the way to the hospital, the pain stopped. So I'm sitting in the hospital, they saw me and they're like, so what's the problem? And I'm like, just like really heavy bleeding, really massive blood clots. And I sat there, they tried to get a line in here, didn't work. Tried to get a line in here, didn't work. Tried to get a line in there, didn't work. And they even used the ultrasound and they couldn't get a line in. And in the end I was like, I might just go home. And they're like, yeah, you're fine, you'll be fine, just go home. And that's how that day ended. from that, the most horrible experience ever. I bled and bled and bled so heavily that I could not leave the house. I left the house one day because I was sick. I'd been sick, and I'll get on to that. I'd been sick and I'd been stuck in the house. And then this happened and I was just so sick of it. I was so sick of everything. My kids weren't home. I was like, right, I'm going into town. I emptied my Fem cup. I got in the car, and between me getting in the car and getting to Harvey Norman, which was only 15 minutes away, it had filled up and was overflowing. I stood up and it soaked through my pants, it soaked through my underwear, it was dripping down my legs, and I was just like, oh my god. So I raced back home again, changed my Fem cup, and I was changing it every 5 minutes that day. Every 5 minutes. And I just couldn't believe it. The pain was unbearable. I was bleeding so heavily. I was just crying because I'd had enough. And that went on for well over a week. My niece had a birthday party, so we were like, okay, let's go. I think I'll be okay. So this had been a week after all the bleeding. I was still bleeding, but it had been a week. And her house is an hour away, and because I was sitting down, I was holding it in. I said to Mum, we need to stop. So we stopped in Paihia to go to the public bathrooms. As I was running from the car to the public bathroom, I felt it like coming out of the Fem cup as I was running. It was the most god-awful feeling. Saturated everything again. Luckily we were going to my sister's house, and she understood. She knows everything. But it was awful, and I was wearing nappy sized pads. I was soaking through pads, I was soaking through Fem cups. I was like, they call it flooding, and I'd been flooding for well over a week, and I'd had enough. I went to see the doctor. This was another doctor, and he said, okay, well, I'll give you some more tranexamic acid. I know it didn't work, but we'll do that and Provera at the same time while you wait for your gynecologist appointment. Because I went in, I was like, I don't feel well. I feel sick. You know, like all this bleeding is taking a toll on me. They just don't seem to care. Like heavy bleeding, they don't really see as that serious, to be honest. And while I was in there, I was like, I really don't feel well. And I started getting really cloudy, and I just was going, oh, I don't feel good. And he was like, you all right? And he took my blood pressure, and it was really low. And he was really concerned, and he put me into this other room, made a nurse watch me, put all the monitors on, and they wanted to send me to hospital in an ambulance. I was like, please don't. I've got kids at home waiting off my poor, like nearly 80-year-old nana. And my kids are quite boisterous. And I was like, I've got to go home. I've got to go home. And then I started to get into a panic. So my low blood pressure then turned into high blood pressure. It was crazy. He's like, you need to go to the hospital. You need to go to the hospital. I was like, I'm not going to the hospital. I've already been there last week. They didn't care about my bleeding. What's the point? Eventually everything kind of calmed down. He gave me the pills. I got to go home. Long story short, because this video is getting long. And since then the bleeding has stopped because I've been on the Provera and the tranexamic acid, if I'm pronouncing that right. I finally got an appointment with a gynecologist. I'm seeing them this Thursday. Nurses are due to strike potentially this week, so I may not get that appointment, which sucks. I totally understand you guys for striking. I do get it, but I'm just like, oh, I really need that appointment. I really need to see a gynecologist ASAP. Okay, so that's that story. Heavy bleeding, horrible. Had another blood test today to retest my iron because the first blood test showed me that it was actually low. Surprise, surprise. So I had to get another blood test today to see if it actually is low, which is a shame because I'm meant to be donating blood, but that ain't happening. Anyway, let's rewind to a few days before I went to my doctor for a second time. I finally got the ultrasound that I've been waiting for months. She said that she saw some sort of growth, some sort of polyp, something like that in there. Didn't know what it was, but that's what they finally referred me to the gynecologist from that. So I'll find out more information about this constant bleeding, this heavy, seriously heavy bleeding. On Thursday I will get to discuss it, as long as the nurses don't strike, I don't know, on this Thursday. Today's Tuesday. And talk about what's going to happen. They obviously have to look further into it. I think in my notes I saw that they were recommending an MRI or some other word where they actually go up into past the cervix and actually have a look. I don't know what that's called, but those were the two suggestions I saw in my notes. it's been god awful because all of that was happening, and on top of all of that, oh my gosh, I'm so white. I got really sick, like seriously sick. They thought I had glandular fever at one point. That was when I went to the hospital. Do I want to go into that? 17 minutes. Oh, I don't know if I can cut this down. Okay, I'm gonna have to talk really fast. So in the middle of all this bleeding, I started to get really sick. It started with my eye, went to the doctor, said it was conjunctivitis. Went back a few days later, I was like, it's not getting better, it's getting worse. Said, no, it's just conjunctivitis, keep taking your drops. It got so bad and so swollen. Then it went to my ear, and my ear was throbbing and ringing and hurting. And then it went down my neck, and my neck was throbbing and hurting. Then it went into my throat, and my throat was hurting. I couldn't eat. I lost 3 kilos in 4 days because I couldn't eat, I couldn't drink. And at one point, Martin found me, he went to church, and he found me on the couch just like, I couldn't get enough oxygen in. I was just like spaced out. I couldn't breathe. I was just feeling really freaking awful. And he was like, do you want to go to the hospital? I'm like, no, I hate hospitals. I've had enough of hospitals. I just get bored. It's awful. And I feel like people look at me like, are you actually sick? I don't know. I just have this thing about hospitals. Anyway, finally, by the end of the day, I was like, I'm going to pass out. Mum, take me to the hospital. He took me to the hospital. We walked into the waiting room. It was packed. It's winter in New Zealand, and it was packed. There was like, we were lucky to get the last 2 seats there. Sat down, waited for probably 10 minutes for the triage nurse to come in. She checked some other person first, then she came to me and did my obs, and she's like, okay, follow me please. And I was like to one, did she say to follow her now? And he's like, yeah. My heart rate was 170 and my blood pressure was 170 over 100 and something. I don't know, but it was friggin' bad. And I said to the nurse too as I was walking behind her, I was like, everything's tingling. My fingers are tingling, like I can feel it tingling. My legs are tingling, everything's going weirdly numb. And she's like, it's okay, it's okay. They got me on the bed. And this was like, okay, so let's talk about what's happening. I'm like, no, everything's going numb, everything's going numb, why is everything going numb? She's like, it's all right, okay, let's just lay back on the bed. They put all these monitors on, all these doctors came in. It was like this mad rush. I was like, oh my God, what is going on? And I was going, I can't breathe, my fingers are tingling, what's going on? And the machines were all beeping, it's going beep, 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 beep. I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? And they're like shoving like this brown paper bag in my face going, just breathe. And everything went so numb. My fingers were tingling so weirdly, and my feet and my legs. I felt like someone was leaning on my chest. I've never felt that sensation before, but I felt like someone was leaning really hard on my chest and I couldn't breathe. Eventually they got me sorted, gave me some drugs, blah 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 blah. And they said, we think you've got glandular fever, we'll sort you out, blah 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 blah. They stopped my, excuse me one moment. That was just my husband. He just heard on the news that the nurses are striking. Constant bleeding and the heavy bleeding is just, it's driving me mental, and it's actually really affecting me, and now I can't even get an appointment again. Oh my gosh. It's hard to be mad because I get why the nurses are striking. They deserve way more pay. They do so much work, and I'm all for them striking. It just sucks because it affects me this time. Oh no. Anyway, let's get back to my story. So anyway, they said stop your antibiotics you're on because they ain't gonna help. Blah. So for 3 days I wasn't on any antibiotics, and I was getting really bad. My eye was puffed up. My throat, I couldn't swallow without wanting to cry. I was all swollen here. Everything was just like shutting down. My whole body was just like this. Pretty much. So I was in bed for over a week. I was sick for 2 weeks and in bed for one of those weeks, just over a week I think. I was living on pretty much slurping soup through a straw. I've got a couple of photos if I dare put them in, because these photos are of when I was actually getting better and I still look awful. So on one of the mornings I woke up and I felt a cold sore. I just felt a cold sore coming up, and I was like, really? Of course, my immune system is shit right now, so of course it's going to get a cold sore after all of this. But that cold sore was not just a cold sore, it spread. My whole bottom lip was covered, my whole top lip was covered. I couldn't talk. I couldn't go on the phone to anybody, I couldn't talk. I couldn't smile, I couldn't move my mouth, and that's when the weight loss just came off me because I couldn't eat. I just couldn't do anything. I laid in my bed literally for over a week. Martin brought this massive TV in, which is still sitting on my dresser. It annoys me because it messes with my feng shui. But she brought that in so that I could use my phone as a mouse, and I literally watched every movie on Netflix for well over a week while I recovered, and it was just awful. I had never felt so sick in my entire life. Still don't know what was wrong. It's been the most awful time of my life this year, pretty much. I've never been that sick in my entire life. Like, I'm putting that up there, kind of, don't even know what was worse with having OHSS. With OHSS, I was actually hospitalised for 8 days, so that's worse. I've got this polyp, suspected polyp, they don't actually know what it is, in my uterus. Apparently it's very sizable, so it's quite large. And they think that is the reason for my continuous bleeding. Not sure if that's the reason for my heavy bleeding. The last bit of information I got from my doctor said that my lining was 48 millimeters thick, and then I had that really massive heavy period with the terrible bleeding. Yeah, I'm really sorry that you haven't seen me in a long time. I've just not had the energy, the strength, the battery to do any videos, and it has been a horrible time. In and out of hospital, in and out of appointments, in and out of friggin' everything. It's just not been great. This will not be the end of me. I will have another video, hopefully. I've got a bunch of videos actually that I could edit and put up, but I just needed to do this explanation first. We'll have some news on what's going to happen with this whole period thing that's going on at some point. Alright guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you in my next vlog, whenever that may be. Alright, bye.